Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to this Thursday's sharing of Harmonize to Energize. My name is Terry Matthews, and it's been my pleasure and privilege to share aspects of JIN SHIN JYUTSU, self-help, and most recently overlapping modalities, or at least modalities with overlapping connections to the energy aspect of JIN SHIN JYUTSU. For those of you that are completely brand new, JIN SHIN JYUTSU is an art of harmonizing the life force or prana or chi, whichever culture you were brought up in, as it moves through the body in energy pathways. It's very similar in concept to acupuncture, but we don't use needles. We use our hands, palms, back of the hands, and thumbs. And whereas acupuncturists may have, I don't know, 300 plus points that they work on, we have what Mary Burmeister, the master that brought the art to the West, called safety energy locks. And there's 26 of them left and right of the spine. We place our hands on these safety energy locks to release any blockages at the spirit, mind, and body level. And what's important to remember with this art is we always exhale first. Mary would say, you can't fill a full container with energy. You have to empty out what you don't need to create a space. And talking of Mary, those of you that met her may know or may not that Monday was her birthday. And as Wayne pointed out, if she was still incarnate, she would be 106 years of age. I was fortunate to spend time with Mary on several occasions because I worked in the JIN SHIN JYUTSU office for some 20 years. Mary passed in 2008, but it was always a pleasure to know that Mary was around. And the interesting thing was I would always feel her energy, and perhaps Jerome Marai, who was her master, who taught her, I could feel that energy in that office. So Mary's energy field, I felt, was quite expanded and a delight to be with, and definitely a master of this art of JIN SHIN JYUTSU. So today, I'm delighted also to share the Harmonize to Energize with Jenny Swiecicki, who some of you probably know, who's been with us several times and has always presented some really interesting insights and perspectives on the art of JIN SHIN JYUTSU. And today we're finishing up the lifestyle study of JIN SHIN JYUTSU that Mary brought to light or highlighted in textbook 2. And Jenny's going to talk us through what that actually means. And I'll just bring up the slideshow. All right. Let's.
All right. Can
You see
everybody
that all
see
right?
the slides? Oh, I realize I can't see the people. So hopefully everyone
Oh,
can see the slides. So
they're,
this
they're
is,
there. I can
okay,
see some of them.
okay, great. Is this from page 2 of text 2,
Yeah.
where Mary writes about the 3 universal harmonizing energies? We have our main central, which is our center line. That's the divine fire, the will to be. We have the left and right supervisors, which govern the left and right respectively. That's the yin and the yang, or really the yang and the yin. And then we have the diagonal mediator. And these 3 pathways of energy, well, they're both the universal and the personal trinity. And as she says here, and then that leads to the 12 organ channels, right? The safety energy locks, which Terry spoke about, which they come into being along the pathways of the supervisor. So they start at the inside of the knee at safety energy lock 1, and then as the depths come into being, those safety energy locks come into being, and then as well along the pathway of the mediator. And eventually we create the 12 organ flows are created. That's the earth part. I forgot to say, so main central's fire, the supervisors are air, the mediator is water, and that's all on the cosmic level. And then the 12 organ flows are the earth. Our body itself is the earth element in this configuration. So when the 12 individualized body function energy is in balance with the universal harmonizing energy, there's perfect harmony within and without the body. However, this perfect harmony may be interrupted by, and then we have this list here, and I believe that Terry has covered all of these, and today we're going a little backwards, right? Because we had to postpone today's talk to discuss accidents causing bodily injuries and the way that these energies get disharmonized by accidents. And this last paragraph, one or more of the 12 individualized body function energy may increase or decrease, stagnate, deviate, reverse, or weave in and out, and result in disharmony. Careful attention is then made to find the cause or of the result of the disharmony. And basically that last paragraph, there's always, as Terry said, when, Mary used to talk about, we need to exhale before we can inhale. And with JIN SHIN JYUTSU, one thing I love about this art, it's so simple. We really, it can all come down to exhaling and inhaling. And so you can think of that as there's too much energy and you need to exhale, or there's not enough, right? There's excess, you need to exhale. There's deficiency, we simply need to inhale. And so we're going to discuss a whole bunch of options and sort of tools for your toolkit today. But I want to say this now, you can always come back to simply breathing. And again, beginning with that exhale. So, and one other thing about this page, it's essentially about lifestyle, right? So all these things that she listed here have to do with our lifestyle. And when Jiro Murai passed JIN SHIN JYUTSU to Mary Burmeister, at least through my understanding, the way I've heard the story is he gave her these essentially these 2 textbooks full of flows and said, these are going to be the most effective and helpful sequences to harmonize the lifestyle of modern humanity. And so we're very, very blessed to be able to receive this gift of this art and use it to help ourselves. So I think, are we ready? I think we can move to the next slide, Terry. Okay, great. So this is a quickie for our mediator. So mediator flow. So first we have main central, which is pure spirit. And then we have the supervisors, which is the divine air. It's like divine mind, the cosmic air. And if you think about it, with that configuration, it's just, source and that cosmic mind. And then we have mediator, which begins to literally mediate, to bring in relationship between yin and yang, left and right, logic, intuition, etc., etc. And Mary shared with us that the mediator is the cause of all the attitudes, mediator out of harmony. It's also a place to go to harmonize the lifestyle. So when we're looking back to cause, we can always begin with checking in with our mediator and just doing some simple self-care to balance and harmonize. And if you think about all of life really is relationships, whether that's relationships within my own body, right? The different organ systems relating to one another, my relationship between my thoughts, my feelings, my body, relationships with my loved one, with children, with, everybody. So let's start with a simple self-help here. We'll start with the left side. So just swinging right hand and fingertips over that left shoulder. And then you're going to make a circle with your left thumb and ring fingernail, the pad of the thumb against the ring fingernail. And then if it's comfortable, you can go ahead and put the inside of your knees together, safety energy lock 1. So those are touching. And when we have our hand over the top of the shoulder like that, the palm is on top of the 11 right there at the top, and fingers reach back towards that top inside edge of the shoulder blade, that safety energy lock 3 and 11. 3 is where the mediator pathway begins. And we all know this mudra, or we may not. If you don't know it, this is a wonderful mudra to know about this when you're making the circle with the pad of the thumb and the nail of the ring finger. That helps to open up the breath to increase vitality. And then touching the knees together, those are the 1, safety energy lock 1, which is our prime mover, helping with all exhaling, supporting the harmonious movement of all, spirit, mind, and body on all realms of anything that's stuck. And it's also the beginning of our supervisor channel. So you can see the simple quickie is really powerful. So let's just
So
go ahead
here
there.
we're working, as Jenny already said, at the causal level. And during my study with Mary, I heard that it was said that she spoke of textbook 1, which is not where this comes from. This comes from self-help book 1. But for those of you that have studied JIN SHIN JYUTSU as practitioners, textbook 1 was flows dealing with the causal level, and textbook 2 was the effect level. And when we talk about accidents and you relate it to JIN SHIN JYUTSU, Mary said everything basically was due to disharmony of the mediator. So as we move through this presentation, we will look at effects. Jenny's going to talk about the effects and flows that will help them, but we're going to use the 3 methods of correction which correct the mediator. Over to you, Jenny.
All right, let's just go ahead and switch sides. Thank you, Terry. That was helpful in creating more of the structure, the outline of the class. So bringing the left fingertips to the right shoulder, and then make that circle with the right thumb and ring fingernail, and then keeping your knees together. And we can just hold this quickie for a few breaths and just notice what you're feeling. Bring awareness into the sensations in your body. Noticing the movement of your belly as breath comes in and out. I think it can be really informative to track your somatic experience throughout your self-care practice. See how your body's feeling in the beginning and see how things change and shift throughout the practice. So just noticing. And so as Terry shared, this mediator is the cause of the disharmonies. And so we can always come back. This is a wonderful self-help to utilize daily. All right. Can you pull up the next slide, Terry? I think we could go into the... All right. So since today's topic is really about the disharmonies that occur from the accidents, which lead to, physical disharmony, I wanted to talk just a little bit about the way the body might demonstrate the effects. And so at the top here, I wrote, the body demonstrates the effect of energy circulation, both in harmony and out of harmony, right? So when we're working with JIN SHIN JYUTSU, we always look at bust line, waistline, hip line, which is spirit, it's feelings. Waistline is the mind, the thinking and the digestion. And then the hip line is the physical body. It's how we put into practice our, in life. And the body is always simply expressing what is. Another one of my friends used to say the body doesn't lie, right? The body simply expresses what is, and that's whether or not energy is flowing in harmony or out of harmony. And so with accidents, um, that can manifest in many different ways. And it also accidents impact us on all three levels, spirit, mind, body as well. So I wanted to speak to that a little as well. I made a short list here. Effects of accidents may show up as inflammation, swelling, pain, bleeding, itching, numbness, emotional shutdown, right? That can be the freeze mechanism in the nervous system, the shutdown or freeze, or outbursts. Some people go into more of the sympathetic fight or flight with accidents, or shock. And shock is a form of a deep freeze. It's actually somewhat of a self-protective mechanism. And there can be, of course, all sorts of accidents. Some of the things Terry and I was discussing is like there's often whiplash or sprains, strains, a lot of bruising. Often the inflammation, there's a lot of heat. So we didn't make a slide for this, but this morning I was thinking to share with you all some of the most simple things with accidents. First and foremost is coming back to your breath or going into your breath. And whether it's with yourself or if you're with someone who's had any sort of accident, just reminding yourself or that person to simply take some long, slow breaths and really focusing on that exhale to release some of that adrenaline, right? Our nervous systems go into that mode with accidents. So coming back to breath. And then we have some very simple tools that we can utilize our hands with any kind of accident. And the first one, so I've myself smashed this thumb many times in my life. I smashed it in a barn door when I was pregnant. I had to get 16 stitches, and then I smashed it with a hammer a couple years ago. So this is one of my projects, my thumb. If you smash a finger, a knee, or whatever, or sprains, strains, any of that, one of my go-tos is simply to either hold. Often with accidents, things are there's so much blood pumping through there. It's sometimes too tender to actually put your hands on it. So then I would just hover over it. It depends, you'll know. So we can always just, in the most simple version of really self-help or helping others, just use your hand, remembering that they are these jumper cables. You're transmitting this universal life force energy to remind your body of its harmony. And so with any accident, you could hover over the knee, wherever it is. Go ahead and do that. I've found with burns, it's often too intense to actually touch it. So I do hover most of the time with burns. And then something to mention is when if you want to make a sandwich, if there's a splinter that you want to pull out, a bug bite and it's swelling, you can put your left hand over that with the right on top. Remember, left lifts out. That's how I remember. So if the left is over, that's something we want to help pull out. And then I remember right on red, if there's bleeding and you want to help push that energy in, put the right over that and hold or hover. So those are a couple really simple accident quickies. As well as I wanted to mention palming the calves. So if you take your palms, ideally the fingertips are pointing up towards, the back of the knee. Palming the calves helps to draw heat, toxicity, inflammation out of the body. It also really helps with shock, which is often a big component of an accident, and it will help to open the breath, get you or that person breathing again. So these are a few simple little quickies, again, that I woke up thinking, oh, we need to mention these. So yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm throwing that in, right? So and I also wanted to say that yeah, again, that the accidents, we're really looking at the whole person. Like I know in Mexico, my sister has done a lot of studying with traditional healers in Mexico. They have, I think it's like 5 or 7 different terms literally for different types of shock. Like susto is when you have a deep fear that you're holding in your body. And actually they have those nuanced terms for how those kind of events can stay with us and not only impact the body, but it's impacting the spirit, the breath. And then we get into the mind and the waistline, the thinking changes. So we're always working with all three levels. And then one other thought to say is that I may have mentioned her last time I gave a class here, but I read and then I reread Anita Moorjani's book called Dying to Be Me, which is, if you haven't read it or listened to her, she's a beautiful, beautiful woman who had a very profound near-death experience. And part of what she said in her book pretty much translated to like, there are no accidents. Like she accessed this very, very expansive state of consciousness through her near-death experience, where she had a very powerful somatic and psychic knowing of like everything is in its perfect place. So, and I think Mary would say understanding is the hardest faculty to come by. So sometimes we experience these things and it may take us years. I mean, there's some things in my life I think, well, maybe when I die, I'll understand what that was all about. So just bringing in that view that in some levels or there's that like that little fable, I think from Asia, where it was like the good luck, bad luck, where a kid fell off the horse and all the people were like, oh no, what bad luck. And the dad's like, bad luck, good luck, who's to say? And then soon after that, there was a war and everybody got drafted, but the kid couldn't go because his leg was broken. And right. So just looking at in that cosmic perspective. So
Yeah. So, some of you may be familiar instead of cause and effect with karma and dharma. And so every thought, word, and deed, bust line, waistline, hip line, resonates into the universe, bounces back. That's that philosophy. It's the quantum field understanding too. So we have to be mindful of what we're thinking, how we're thinking, because that can attract situations to us like accidents. And, the thing about accidents is we may or may not have the opportunity, if it's somebody else, to access them. And as Jenny said, she floats. Always remember with JIN SHIN JYUTSU, you can do hands-off treatments. And common sense dictates to us that we can't always access a person who is in need of help, who's had an accident. And of course, there are the emergency services. We do what we can. And key to that would be to breathe out. If you are in the middle of an accident, personal or witnessing one, sometimes the adrenaline just kicks in and the breathing, where's that? If you can remember to breathe out or hold your thumb, just get yourself centered in that moment, and then it'll be easier for you to flow with what is, rather than the fear of, oh my God, there's blood. What do I do now? Oh my God, are they breathing? If you have the experiences with CPR and all the rest, perfect. Don't go running around just holding fingers if you know that stuff too. You got to use common sense. But back to the JIN SHIN JYUTSU effects, those of you that have a copy of this book, The Touch of Healing, pages 161 to 169, all your first aids, most of your first aids, and many of the things that Jenny mentioned are actually outlined there too. All right, so where do we go from here? We want to go into the methods of correction?
So we had mentioned the methods of correction, which are powerful sequences. And with the methods, they address bus line, which is the emotional center, the heart, waistline, the mind, the digestion, and hip line, the physical body. So yeah, Terry and I are going to go through those and share some simple quickies that you can use with these.
Okay, so those of you that are brand new, don't worry. We're just going to do something simple here. But these methods of correction, as I said earlier, are all about correcting the mediator, which we JIN SHIN JYUTSU people understand as the ultimate cause of all the accidents and disharmonies in our life. And it's in textbook 1, the practitioner book. Harmonize is bust line, first and second depth, surface skin and deep skin, for those of you not familiar. Bust line is spirit, emotional states of being, my connection to the creator. This is very important, and you know, just to reflect, it's at the bust line that we receive the spiritual impulses and the thoughts, and it's there that we can transform our thinking. And to help us transform, we need to breathe, and we're going to hold safety energy lock 11 and 22, which is the first step of the first method of correction. And then at the end of that flow is safety energy lock 11 and the high 19. The 11s are going to help unburden the shoulders and really help us relax and let go into the flow. 22s are actually part of third depth liver, but they're actually in traditional Chinese medicine, lung 1. High 19, which is also from third depth, interestingly, releases the bust line and helps the breath too. All right, so first method, use it during states of emotional upset, shock, there you go, any respiratory difficulty, deep grief, insecurity or feeling ungrounded, high fevers or shoulder pain and tension. And then Jenny did this beautiful slide. She's done these beautiful correction slides. She mentions a simple alternative could be simply to hold both 13s or the hug, which we're familiar with. But let's just do this quick sequence in with the white background there, the left flow, left hand on the left safety energy lock 11, which is the top of the shoulder, and the right hand on the left 22 beneath the collarbone. And we'll just breathe out, drop our shoulders, drop those 11s, literally drop them all the way as if you're in a lift and you're going all the way down from bust line through waistline to hip line to your feet. Connecting with the ground beneath on the exhale, and then naturally inhaling, receiving the breath. And we'll do that for a few exhale inhalations to just feel the connection between these energy locks. And we'll know when the pathway between them, the circuit between them, is harmonized, because we'll feel pulses in both places on 11 and 22, like you would if you were holding your wrist pulse. It is, in fact, the blood pulse that you're likely to hear first, but the blood is actually following the energy, which is what we listen for when we listen to pulses in JIN SHIN JYUTSU. It's the energy pulse preceded there normally by the blood pulse, but the blood pulse is, in fact, following the energy pulse. And as you're exhaling, just drop all your concerns, your worries, fears, and whatever. And just have that delicious letting go experience. Sometimes people find it difficult to exhale, and sometimes it's helpful to just tuck in your abdominal muscles. That will push the energy towards the ground. It'll help you exhale. It's not something that I remember Mary particularly teaching, but it's a very useful, quick way of helping the exhale. And then you naturally receive. And then finally, the last step of the first method of correction, we're going to put our right hand on high 19, which is the upper arm here, and leave the left hand on safety energy lock 11. Here we go. Breathing out. And receiving. The simpler you can approach dealing with accidents, both on yourself and on others, because of I mentioned the fear or the panic that sets in, the better you can. And if you can do nothing else, just breathe out to center yourself. But keep it simple. KISS. Okay, time is moving on. We're now going to move on to the third method of correction. Why is it in this order? It's in this order because this represents the waistline, and we talked about that structure of bust line, waistline, hip line. I don't recall totally why Mary put the order in the book that she did. She actually put it as bust line, hip line, waistline. But I do know from the perspective of how you move energy, you can go above something and below something to help it move. So maybe she was thinking that way, because first method would be above and second method, the hip line, would be below. I don't know. But anyway, later, maybe if Jenny's got a perspective, she can clarify. Here's the quick sequence. Left on the center of your sternum, right on your sacrum at the back there. It's the first step, the third method of correction. Harmonizing waistline, third and sixth depths, waistline mind, bridge between heaven and earth. Use third method as an EMT for critical labels, accidents, big shocks or traumas to re-establish the order of harmony. Helps to harmonize the thinking and stop the process of self-destruction created by the mind. Used to release deep tension in the stomach. A simple alternative could be simply hold both SEL 14s or 14 with opposite 19. Jenny, you wanted to add something, did you not?
Oh, yeah. Just one thing I wanted to share about the sort of powerful nature of this flow is that, as it says here on the slide, the waistline itself is the bridge. If we're looking at just bust, waist, hip, bust line is heaven, hip line is earth, and then the waistline is the bridge. It's where human beings live. We stand between heaven and earth. So we have that bridge here. And then this flow opens the waistline, which is third and sixth depths, and third depth is the bridge into the physical body from sixth depth source. And then this first step that we're holding right now, when we're holding the center of the sternum with our left hand and then the sacrum with our right hand, we're also working with the fourth depth bridge right here on the sternum. Fourth depth is a bridge from the physical body back to sixth depth source. And then the sacrum is that third depth bridge into the body. So this flow has just always struck me as being so powerful, because we open up all those bridges, and that essentially, to me, that's part of why this, it reestablishes that order of harmony. There's a quote from Mary where she talked about the, JIN SHIN JYUTSU as a gift to help humans move from the order of the disorder back to the order of the order. And so that's inviting in that source energy. So just wanted to say that. And I've never really pondered, Terry, but I'm going to now that you mentioned the order that she puts these methods correction in the book. I'll ponder that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm probably guessing that there's a subtle and a very obvious way, but I don't know totally. I don't think I've ever heard it. But anyway, let's do, thank you, Jenny. Let's do the second sequence, which is basically the last step of the third method. And remember, folks, we're correcting the mediator. These corrections are correcting the mediator. The left now goes to the base of the sternum, so from the center to the bottom to the zippy, and the right is going on to the center, top of the head, which reminds me that this can be a substitute for the main central, because those of you that know this flow in total will know that it goes all the way up the spine. And if it's easier to do this than the main central on somebody, go right ahead or do these sequences on yourself. I often drop my hand from the center top of head to the fours because the fours let in the light. And I think it was Cynthia Broshi that pointed this out in the A&Q, the pink book, for those of you who are familiar. In that book, it was spoken about 2 areas where energy enters the body. And the major areas were the back of the head, around the fours, and then between the umbilicus and the 15. So don't worry if your hand slips down, in summary. Okay, I'm kind of clocky conscious at the moment. So anyway, let's move on to second method correction, and over to you, Jenny.
All right. So second method correction was one of my first favorite flows when I attended my first 5-day class with Muriel Carlton in 1997, and I was blown away by everything. And I remember during the class, she said, you might find yourself just feeling really drawn to a few flows. And when you find those flows, just practice them a lot. So this was my first favorite flow, and I practiced it a lot on myself and then friends. And I had a history of scoliosis. And so this was really helpful for me in correcting the curvature. So second method correction works with the hip line. This is the deepest depths, the fourth and the fifth, the muscle and the bones. And again, hip line represents the physical body, and it also displays the physical wear and tear, right? Or the overuse on the body. And it also has to do with the ability to replenish myself. When we work with opening the hip line, we're opening up, that energy of regeneration. Those toe flows all come up through the 15s and the groin. We have our 25s on the sit bones, all in the hip line. 25s all about quietly regenerating. And again, with accidents, well, of course, the physical wear and tear is often very prevalent, obvious. And then it's really important to be able to inhale to replenish, and reminding you all of what Terry said. We need to first exhale. And this flow anchors on safety energy lock 15 and the groin. And when we're holding 15, it helps not only wash our hearts with laughter, but helps us to exhale. So the first step of this is left hand on left 15 in the groin, and then right hand on the left 2. If you want to switch hands for this first step, you can, and like reach your right hand over to the left groin and put left hand on lower back. You can do it either way. My right shoulder is feeling a little wonky. Actually, I was just realizing I almost had an accident. I slipped going down the stairs the other day, but I caught myself. So thankfully I didn't, but I got a little jolted, and I'm still undoing that tension. So whatever feels best, holding that left 15 and 2 on the lower back, same side. And just holding. And 15 is also our helper for any kind of injury, sprains, strains, tears, broken bones. The 15 will support that healing and recovery. And then 2 on the lower back is our body's chiropractor. And in fact, this second method flow we can use as a chiropractor. So this is great with accidents when there's any kind of back injury, the spine the alignment got out of whack, which is very, very common. Often, people don't even realize it because they think, oh, that was just small. Or like me, just, slipping on the stairs, I could feel my alignment shift a bit. So to really harmonize the structure, this supports the kidney energy, which kidney sandwiches the spine. So it also has a lot to do with our alignment. To clear phlegm, for clearing deep grief, body aches and pains. I've used this flow a lot when there's, a flu and there's just that kind of achy, miserable feeling, and fevers. And again, when we're working with opening up the 15s, we make room for that fever, that heat. As I was saying earlier, there's only really exhaling or inhaling. So with the fever, there's excess heat. We open up the 15s and we can release that excess heat. And then go ahead and move your right hand. We'll put left hand in the 15 and right hand on the base of the skull, the 4. This is the last step of this second method. And as I wrote on the bottom, a simple alternative. I like making things simple. You could simply just hold both 15s in the groin. Whenever we work with 15s, we're replenishing the physical body. We're helping the healing, and we're opening up the back. Or you could hold 15 and same side 11, which 11 is also opens up the hip line. And second method, one other thing I'll say about it, is particularly helpful when, similar to our supervisor flow or quickie, when there's a lot of effects on one side of the body. So say it's like, your left shoulder, your left knee, there's more bruising, swelling than the second method, because essentially it supports the supervisor flow. So you could work with that to clear one of the sides of the body.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. And segueing across from the relationship of the 15s and second method direction to kidney energy, the 3 regeneration or toe flows are always going to be part of your first aid, your treatment kit, when you're dealing with shock energies or just lack of energies. And, the kidney energy is the last energy to pack up, for want of a better word, in the body to end. So in accidents and that, be mindful that the pressure is going to be on kidneys, liver, and spleen, because they're the regeneration flows. They pump the energy up the back and keep us awake, keep the blood pure, keep it circulating. They support and unburden the heart, etc., and energize. So if it's appropriate and you can get to these particular flow positions dealing with either yourself or somebody else, then they are also there in your treatment. With the kidney, quickly, you can place the right hand on the pubic bone and the left hand holds the right little toe. That may be tricky for some of you. Then you can always go to your index finger, and we'll talk about that with a map in a minute. But right little toe, right hand on pubic bone, and left hand holds the right little toe.
And one thing about the kidney energy and kidney flow, it also has a very close relationship with the adrenals. So that stress response, the fight or flight or the freeze, which I spoke about earlier, is, very closely linked to kidney energy. So this not only is helpful for the physical regeneration, but for harmonizing, for resetting the nervous system when there's been an accident or a shock.
Yeah, and that's why we keep it as simple as we can there with the index finger too. The liver and spleen, it says on the slide, also become overworked as they hurry to make new blood cells. Yeah, if someone's bleeding or you're bleeding, liver and spleen are going to start working overtime. Support liver energy, place the right hand on right safety energy lock 4 on the left hand, back on that 22 for a few minutes and reverse, but the left side. Or hold both safety energy lock 4s. And although it doesn't say that here, you would hold your ring finger. And finally, or not finally, we're back on this. We're going to the support of the spleen energy. And I was going to say we could go back to right safety engine lock 5, but those of you that are familiar with Mary's self-help books will know that she put a circle with a cross in it at the different stations on the spleen flow. So if you can't reach your 5, which is beneath the inside ankle there, you can actually hold your 1. So you can hold your right hand on number 5, the ankle bone there beneath the ankle bone, and the left hand on the coccyx, or take that hand and place it on the 1. Or hold the right hand on the coccyx and the left hand on the pubis. And when you think about it, all those regeneration flows go through the pube and the coccyx, and you might just want to hold that. Or finally, simple stuff, hold the thumbs in each turn. And each of the steps can be held for a few minutes until harmonized. I'm just going to move, whoops, I don't know how that happened.
Can I say one thing about that slide, Terry,
Yeah.
before you move on? What's coming to my awareness with kidney, liver, spleen also is that we're looking at the kidney relating to the muscles, right? The 4th depth muscles, and then liver, we have that blood essence, and then spleen is not only the skin surface and the tissues, right? So the tissues of the body. So also keeping those things in mind when utilizing these sequences with accidents, you're really, also addressing all of those levels, as well as, I see these 3 flows really supporting the nervous system, which is so important in the recovery and harmonizing. So, oh, and one other thing about spleen, I have this like quote in my head of it takes energy to move energy. So even when and it also takes energy to sleep and to rest. Like sometimes we get really wound up from adrenaline, and spleen I found can help calm you down enough so you can, and give you the energy so you can get deep rest, if that makes sense. And one thing I found helpful, if you're in that state of being really wound up, to give yourself or do a spleen flow on whoever it is during the day as well as at bedtime. I found that to be helpful.
Yeah. One thing to contemplate is you really can't transform effectively or heal if you don't have sufficient energy. You can want to heal, you can have that thought, but if the energy isn't flowing and the blockages are there, it'll take transformation through using the breath and JIN SHIN JYUTSU. And here we have the simple chart of the hand and the relationships between all the organs and the attitudes, the emotional responses, and all the systems: skin surface, muscular, blood, deep skin, skeletal. And the palm, we put your hands together, you're going to help balance diaphragm and umbilicus, 6 depth, and receive 36 breaths. So, again, if it's you or somebody else, for simplicity, if you're dealing with, someone who's bleeding and you've forgotten about right on red and all the rest of it, just grab the thumb, the index, and the middle, and you know you're going to be helping the blood flow. So that's just giving you a reminder how powerful the fingers are. And Jiro Murai himself said that in the end, ultimately, people would only need fingers and where we're going next, toes, to totally harmonize their being. And here it is, the opposite fingers and toes flow. I'm not sure that you'll all be able to do this on someone who's had an accident. It may or may not be possible. Again, accessibility, common sense. But here we have the left hand, if you started with that, the thumb going to the opposite little toe, which is on the right side, okay? And then the index finger is going to go to the ring toe, the middle finger's going to the middle toe, and you're holding them like a jumper cable would. You're holding the finger, you're holding the toe until you got a pulse. And then there's well, we mentioned it there with the hand, there's the palms. Placing the palms together, you're going to get 6 depth, you're going to get the source just like that. You could press into someone's palm or the sole of the foot. They are source points for energy to enter the body, 6 depth level. Now, there are some simple self-helps for the opposite fingers and toes, and you either cross your hands like this and hold your feet if you can get to them. Probably easier if you were sitting closer to the floor, or you cross your legs and then you just hold the toes with the fingers. So 2 possible ways of doing this flows on yourself. I often had heard it said that, you know, you can do opposite fingers and toes at the supervisor level because this is a crossover and it's like a mediation, but you could do it left and right supervisors. So what am I saying? My right thumb here doesn't necessarily have to go to the left toe. The right toe. Did I say left or right? Anyway, my left thumb doesn't have to go to the right little toe. It can go to the left little toe. And that will affect the supervisor flow. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Jenny?
I'm not quite sure I followed that last, but were you saying you don't have to cross your hands?
Yeah, at the supervisor level, which is down the front, up the back on one
Yeah,
side before it crosses over, you can
yeah.
connect the toes with the feet by holding your right thumb with, sorry, I don't know why I'm screwing up my right and left. Your left thumb with your left little toe.
Okay, that's where I thought you were going. And
Yeah. I just
when I
kept
think,
mixing mitoses or mixing my
yeah,
hands.
yeah.
I was like, what?
The
Yeah.
only other thing I wanted to say is, Terry, you said it might not be easy to do this when someone's had an accident, but I will say this is a really wonderful flow to use for people in hospitals or in, nursing homes. I am working with a kid in a rehab center, because hospital beds are a little more awkward. They have those bars and sometimes you can take them down, sometimes you can't, but it's usually you can get to a hand and a foot. And a little bit goes a long way, even if you just do a few minutes each set. I've seen really profound results. So keep it in mind. You might not be able to do it right in the moment, but for recovery and rejuvenation, this is really helpful.
Yeah, folks, in fact, I would say, dependent on the situation, again, make it as simple as you can. And if it's possible, do it. If it's not, just hold a finger. If that's not, just hold a toe or do the hand palm, foot sole, hold the sole of the feet, hold the palm. All right. Well, we're drawing up to the hour. And so now it is time to stop sharing. And let's have a connection with you all. All right. So, any other comments before we go to questions, Jenny?
No.
All right. Raise your hand if you got a question and then unmute yourself if I see you. Oh. Maybe it's what Susan. Oh, Michelle. Okay, Michelle, unmute yourself. Yeah. I think I'm going to have to unmute you.
Muted.
Tara,
Michelle?
can you open up the chat?
No. Sorry.
Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, Michelle, can you unmute yourself?
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
I must have a bad connection because it keeps dropping out. So when you were talking about the first method of correction, you indicated the left side, and on the third, the left side, and on the second, the left side. Do we not do it on the right side, or what is the difference between doing it on the left or the right?
Well, simply the left encourages an exhale.
Yeah.
All right.
And the third method is really like a main central. So there is no left and right side of the third method. That one just follows the center line. It's similar to main central or 13 flow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a mix of that, encouraging, if we haven't emphasized it enough already, emphasizing the exhale is critical to our study of JIN SHIN JYUTSU. And, again, with accidents, yourself and others, if you can, drop them shoulders and exhale. Oh, what am I going to do? Drop your shoulders. And
Right.
then the answer may come quicker. Nancy, unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you, Jenny. That was great. And Terry, should we guess that from what you just said that someone who has been paralyzed from an accident, opposite fingers and legs paralyzed from the accident, opposite fingers and toes would be the best way to go from those, even if it's a year, close to a year later, because they didn't want to do anything out of the norm of our medical profession?
Opposite fingers and toes is an incredibly powerful flow. And I've often heard it said by instructors, people underestimate the power of fingers and toes. But of course, Jerome Marai reminded everybody in the end, that was it. So if you can, go for it. And
Yeah.
don't forget the palm, because that's accessing the source. If you're holding your finger, you can put the thumb in the middle of the palm. Over to you, Jenny.
I highly recommend opposite fingers and toes. I've seen some amazing miracles occur with that flow. And I also would suggest that, really working a lot with the 15s, maybe that first step of the second method. But yeah, definitely. And one other thing I wanted to respond to the last question also about left. When we're working with the left side of the body, we're clearing the past. And that includes not only your own personal past, whether it's yesterday or your, 50 years ago, but that's the energy of the generations. And so there's been a lot more awareness these days of like intergenerational trauma and epigenetics. And so not only are we exhaling, our own breath in this moment, we're unburdening ourselves of the past generations. So another little piece
Good
for
point.
that.
And folks, on that level, DNA is not your destiny, because you do have the mediator. And there's one other flow which we didn't go through, which is the 6 and little toe, which harmonizes the particular one I'm thinking of, the kidney. And we're back to kidney. And those of you that understand traditional Chinese medicine will know that the kidney brings prenatal qi, in other words, ancestral qi, to your body. So it's a very important aspect of our healing transformations, particularly of patterns. And of course, 15 flow is in there because the kidney flow goes through there along with the spleen and liver. Stephanie, unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody.
Please, Stephanie.
Hey, just wanted to ask Jenny to repeat the name of that book that you mentioned.
Dying to Be Me,
Ah,
Anita Moorjani, Moorjani. dying to be me. And you can also just YouTube her. I think she has a lot of like TED Talks and things. I listened to it on Audible because she narrated it, which was
Oh, great.
very enjoyable. Yes.
I use Audible a lot. Great. Thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on that level, and some of you may know this, and it's not something I'm saying to impress you, but having died myself in a car accident, when I read, what was her name again, this lady Morjani?
Anita, yes.
Yeah, when I read that, I'm like, she opened up the dimension even further to me. I mean, I did experience a lot of the things that she talked about, the light. But in conclusion, I will say this. From that experience, for me, I understand that we are actually light energy, and light is infinite, undying, endlessly powerful. And the whole concept of living and dying is nothing more than the mind dividing us into duality. But when we go back to oneness, which is that spine in JIN SHIN JYUTSU, third method correction, main central, we actually realize, oh, this and that is an illusion, where we are actually all of it. We are the light. And the more we breathe out and fill ourselves with light, with the 4s and the 15s, the more we refine not only the organs and the cells in our body, but our perception of what's going on and what happens in accidents, karma, why that happened, dharma, why you're doing this kinds of thing. The whole matrix can open up to you. So just I thought I'd add that little bit in. Jenny?
I think I don't have, I feel complete.
Yeah.
Jenny, do you have any classes or day classes, or do you teach at all besides coming to?
I do
Energize?
teach. I don't, so I lead guided self-help on Zoom twice a week. It's Tuesday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific and Thursday, 6:30 p.m. And then I teach. My most recent class I finished this summer was a 9-month class where we focused on that 9 months of creation in utero, and really used it as an opportunity to not only explore the depths, but also go deeper into repatterning and resetting our own nervous system through going back to those 9 months in utero. So it was a 9-month course.
So where do we find you? I know you can't,
Oh.
we can't get you in the chat, so you could put an address up there or something.
Okay, I have, you can go to my website. I can put it in here. It's Nature Wise Healing. I'm typing it.
I'll open up the chat.
NatureWiseHealing.com.
There you go. I've
And-
made it easier for you. There it is. It wasn't
thank you.
difficult. Yeah.
Or you could just send me an email and I'll put you on my mailing list. I'm putting it, it's JSJDoula@gmail.
Okay, folks. Well, coming back to events this week, we mentioned Mary B, her birthday. I believe some of the instructors from JSJ SMB did a half-hour presentation, and I'm told that a replay may be on their site, JSJMB. And I wanted to mention that on the same day, Pat Mehta's son, and Pat Mehta, for those of you that don't know, was like Mary's right hand. She studied with Mary for many, many years, and she worked in the office too. And I had the pleasure of meeting Pat, and she became a very dear, dear friend. And I can't tell you how many times I used to laugh when I was being treated, because she had a wicked sense of humor, that Pat. But she never boasted that she knew anything about JIN SHIN. She said, oh, I know nothing. But she did. She embodied it. And I do have the link to the celebration of her life that happened in 2021. But for various reasons, Doug Mehta, only managed to get it together for us Monday, on Mary's birthday. He didn't actually even know it was Mary's birthday, but no matter. It was synchronicity. And those of you that would like a copy, so that you can click on the link, of that email. You can either, email me, h2energize@gmail.com. And that way, I can send it to you. You've all got it anyway, but I'll put it here just in case. Yeah, just email me and I'll send you a link. And those of you that have attended the monthly meditation, I think I can see at least one person here who does. We have another meeting on Sunday. And this meditation, for those of you that don't know, is something that myself and a good friend from the Unity Church, who is a client of mine, instigated because we began to realize that not only we, but many people were concerned about the energy in the world. This lady is highly clairvoyant and she connects with the angelic realm, and she channeled some information which we ended up calling the Phil meditation, and it really is about peace, P, H, harmony, I, integrity, and L, love. And we created that space for people to join us on once a month on a Sunday at 4 p.m. Arizona time. And we meditate using calligraphies created by Dr. and Master Zhigang Shah. Anyone who's familiar with him, he talks of how these calligraphies are portals to saints and Buddhas. All I can tell you, unless you're clairvoyant and you can tell me, is they're very, very powerful, and people have experienced tremendous healing with them. And so you're invited to join us there. Again, email me with that same email and I will give you the link. It's Sunday at 4 o'clock and it's on Zoom. And finally, last but not least, November, there will only be one Harmonize to Energize because the last Thursday is Thanksgiving in America, and most of you might be tucking into turkey. So it'll be with Adele Lees on November the 14th. The delightful connection with animals will be with us, and I hope you'll all join us then. For that, in the meantime, the replay will be up in 24 to 48 hours of today's. And even though it was the second to last version of JIN SHIN JYUTSU Lifestyle, we did it. We came to the end, and there was 8 levels, and this is an 8-year. We've come back to source. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Lisa, who was with me last time, helping out and discussing about injection of poison. Thank you, Beth, who is helping me with emotional and mental projects. And thank you, Manjita Tulsi, who took me through, we shared the first 5 levels of JIN SHIN JYUTSU Lifestyle. And they are all up. Those 7 are all up already for you to view on my site in YouTube. All right, unless there's anything you want to add quickly, Jenny, I think we're going to...
Thank you, Terry, for inviting me to present with you. This was fun.
Oh, it's always a joy for me to present with others, and Jenny always brings great enrichment. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Folks, I don't know whether she wants me to say this, but I do know that in the future she's been invited along with Thais Shabela to share a presentation separately. Thais with Wayne Hackett and Jenny with Wayne Hackett. We don't have times yet or dates, but we will have. And so that's something to look forward to in 2025. All right, everybody, have a good rest of the day, a good rest of the week. Thank you for joining us. It's been a privilege to share, and I now need to stop the recording.